Mark Miller, his comments were like calling his fellow liberals entitled, and he's going to war with them.
Four Liberal cabinet ministers resign. Mark Miller insults his mutinous colleagues, and everyone in Trudeau's inner circle seems to be livid that they can't figure out who is no longer bowing down to Justin Trudeau.
Let's take a look.
Public and private calls for the Prime Minister to step down as party leader quickened the pulse of the Liberal caucus this week, and it had at least one cabinet minister in a fighting mood.
This is the most passive-aggressive week type of display of questioning of leadership that I've ever seen. The Prime Minister is colleagues with these individuals, if they are indeed in the numbers that are speculated to be. They owe it to him to go up and tell it to his face. At the end of the day, it makes this group of people look horribly entitled and worried about their own futures. Say it to your face. Let's clear it up and let's focus on the bigger threat, which is what we're currently doing, which is sleepwalking into a Pierre Poilievre win who is only focused on himself and doesn't really care about this country.
Wow. Talk about burning bridges.
That's going to get these people on your side.
Right.
But this is the Liberal way. You know, gee, it almost feels like a tyranny. Just saying. But here's the interesting thing. So Warren Kinsella was actually telling a story on a video that I was watching earlier, and I found it very revealing. So he was saying that when Prime Minister Stephen Harper was Prime Minister and he came home from work and was staying at the official residence of the Prime Minister, he would bring home, basically papers and papers and papers of briefings as his homework, and he would read all of that. A Prime Minister reading documents. I know it's
it's unheard of.
It's outlandish.
Of course, the Prime Minister reads any documents he does receive.
But so he would bring that home to read, and that way he would be ready for his cabinet meeting the next day. And the Prime Minister has a personal chef and different people around the house that will serve and that sort of thing, and that's fine. That's their job and they get paid to do it. So they would serve dinner and this sort of thing. But the interesting thing is Prime Minister Stephen Harper would send them home immediately after serving dinner. He would say, listen, I'm here with my family in my home. You need to go now and be with your family in your homes. Like, thanks for the dinner and it's very lovely, but go be with your family.
Yeah, you don't have to dote upon me.
Right. So then he contrasted that with Justin Trudeau, who I guess regularly brings over 15 of his friends or buddies, and they stay over until the wee hours of the morning, where he makes the staff continue to wait on them and serve them until the wee hours of the morning. So it just reinforces this entitlement that Justin Trudeau obviously has had since he's been a little kid, in that everyone exists only to serve him. And he seems to view Canada as, his personal bank account that gets to funnel money into him having vacations and everyone.
And his projects and whatever he wants.
Yeah. And it made me respect Stephen Harper that much more when I heard that story. And it's such a contrast of, humble, professional, and responsible versus basically a 50-year-old kid that is running this country, or rather not running this country. And he also said that Justin Trudeau sees himself more as a figurehead, and that Justin Trudeau has even said, well, the Prime Minister is basically a figurehead. Well, no, the Prime Minister is actually the leader of the country and should be working all the time. You don't want to work all the time? Then don't be the Prime Minister of Canada.
Well, and if you're not working hard as the Prime Minister, that's a signal to your ministers that they don't have to work hard. And that's a signal to their secretaries that they don't have to work hard. And a signal to the backbenchers that they don't have to work hard. And it just goes on and on and on.
And this is how you get a government that's as corrupt as it is. And this is maybe why, as we said in the other video, we feel like all these ministers just get their job and then put their feet up, smoking cigars and drinking the whole time and not doing any work, because by the sounds of it, that's exactly what they do. So maybe that is what they do. But I just found it very rich. And Mark Miller, who was a guest at Justin Trudeau's wedding, so he's been friends with him for a long time, is saying that these people are entitled for criticizing the Prime Minister. And he's saying, well, this is such a passive-aggressive way. Well, apparently bringing their concerns to him directly before was never taken seriously, and they were patted on the head and shoved off. Well, they've tried talking to him a couple times. They've tried speaking out publicly. So now they're going to be doing it this way, because the Prime Minister can't divide and conquer. And they can't figure out who it is because of the way that these people have actually done this. It's almost like, The Great Escape from one of the World War II movies. And if you've seen that, great movie. But there's been zero leaks of the document. Nobody knows who's on there. Nobody knows who's really leading this. There's speculation, but that's it. So I think this is a pretty incredible statement from Mark Miller to just sit there and chastise all of these people who may say, oh yeah, fine. Yeah, you're going to treat us like that? Well, then maybe we'll vote non-confidence. Or wait, maybe we'll all sit independent. And then you can sweat a little more. And then you'll be down to around 120 people in the Liberal Party instead of 150 odd. So that's the opening. Mark Miller. Wow. Great job. Great leadership, buddy.
That's a pretty blunt analysis from Mark Miller. So are the Liberals headed for a major clash at caucus next week, or could the secret plotters back down? That's where we start with our political insiders. And look, you've all seen cabinet ministers on this show. They've heard about it. They know people who may be involved with it. They're not denying this is happening. It's a question of how big it is and how effective it might be. The latest I've heard is that close to 30 names are now on the initial document, which does have a clear common pledge of the Prime Minister has to go. They are now in the process of finalizing a letter of some sort that will go to the Prime Minister either before caucus or at caucus, codifying their clear demands. What's missing is a clear ultimatum, like what will we do? Will we sit as independents? Will we vote non-confidence? None of that's there, but we might see some activity between now and Wednesday as well to try to propel momentum on this. So the cabinet is pushing back, Fred, but they don't know what they're pushing back against, really, right? They don't know the size, the scale, the strength of it. What do you think happens?
It's a fascinating civil war erupting here. Trudeau's now fighting a two-front war. He's against the Conservatives who are pounding him every day, and now he's fighting his own caucus. Mark Miller, his comments were like calling his fellow Liberals entitled, and he's going to war with them, and that's what's breaking out here. And his comment about sleepwalking into something like what. The Liberals feel like they've been sleepwalking for the last few years. So what are they like? The Trudeau team needs to put something forth, some kind of plan, some kind of this is how we're going to do it. It feels like it may be way too late now. I don't know how you do this. And, I don't think you need an ultimatum other than 30 Liberal members of Parliament saying you need to go. That is going to be incredibly damaging as this continues to unfold over the next week or so.
Fred hit it right on the head. It's a civil war.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. And cabinet is like shooting their mouth off about it. Yeah,
just those remarks by Miller were just, I don't even know the right word, grotesque, maybe? Like, you've got this faction of Liberal MPs that are quite clearly upset. Their constituents are upset, and that's why they're upset. And instead of looking at what they're saying and saying, maybe there's some truth to this, you're calling them entitled?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, and remember when all of this was bubbling up after Toronto St. Paul's, allegedly Trudeau went around to all of these MPs and had a little conversation, joined the mini caucus meetings around the country. And from the understanding that we have is he said, okay, we'll look at making some leadership changes. Okay, we're going to do this. Okay, we're going to do that. And after, their national campaign director stepped down, everyone was waiting for that to be replaced, and it didn't happen.
I believe it's happened now.
It happened this week, but after...
it took a long time, longer than it should have, especially in a minority government where they could go to an election at any time.
Well, it only happened after, news of this letter broke. So you basically have Justin Trudeau, surprise, surprise, patting these people on the head and saying, oh yeah, don't worry, you know, Uncle Justin's going to take care of everything, and then just ignores it and does nothing. So what do you expect these people to do the second time around, Mark? Or maybe it's even the third, because we haven't heard of anything else.
Well, and I do want to say that I'm not exactly happy with these MPs that have decided to form their own faction and try to oust Trudeau. I feel like it's too little too late. The optics are that now that you have your constituents telling you that, well, I would vote for you again, but I don't want Trudeau, you know, to be prime minister still. It seems like they're just trying to save their own jobs. They were content to vote against the best interests of Canadians for the past 9 years. And now that they're going to lose their jobs, they want Trudeau out. At least that's what it looks like from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, it's self-serving at this point. So there's no sympathy. It's just fascinating to watch the implosion of the party in power going on right now. So this is fascinating to see, and now you have these 4 cabinet ministers resigning, so that adds some complexity here. And is that, you know, was that managed in order to, you know, kind of try and stall this caucus event that's going to happen next week? Not sure. Only Justin Trudeau knows that.
Well, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the polling for all of them, but I have for Philomena Tassi, who is in, we affectionately call it HWAD. It was actually the riding that Ryan was considering running in before he messed up his knee. And the polls there are going conservative, thank goodness. So it makes me wonder if Philomena Tassi is stepping down from cabinet or retiring from cabinet, and it sounds like not running again because she knows she doesn't have a very good chance of winning.
Well, and if she were running, she'd be running against a phenomenal conservative candidate, Erica Alexander, who's the granddaughter of Lincoln Alexander. And for those of you who may not know who Lincoln Alexander is, was a very prominent politician, and they named the Lincoln Alexander Parkway after him. So, you know, very storied family in the Hamilton and Stony Creek area. So phenomenal candidate, and I'm glad she's the one that's actually running. I think she'd do a better job than I would, frankly. So
no offense, but I think so too.
Yeah, 100%. So you know, we're completely behind Erica in winning that riding whenever the election happens. But some of these ministers have decided to go on CTV and talk about this. Maybe not such a great idea.
It was a parade of cabinet ministers today praising the prime minister and giving Justin Trudeau their unwavering support. Now, it comes after 4 ministers announced they will not be running in the next election. They are Marie-Claude Bibeau, Philomena Tassi, Dan Vandel, and Carla Qualtrough. Those announcements come as 2 other members of Trudeau's inner circle also left the federal party. Seamus O'Regan has decided to spend more time with his family, while Pablo Rodriguez is seeking the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. Joining me now to talk about her decision to step away from cabinet is the Minister of Sport and Physical Activity, Carla Qualtrough. Hi, Minister. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
CTV News did reach out to your office to ask whether or not you'd be running in the next election. This was back in October. And on October 7th, your office responded, quote, Minister Qualtrough has said she is running in the next federal election. So 10 days later, your statement came out saying that it's time to step aside. It's time to move on. So I wanted to know what changed in that time.
Well, to be honest, like nothing changed. But at that point, I hadn't confided in my staff. I hadn't had my final conversation with the Prime Minister. My kind of position was I was running until I made a final decision not to. And so nothing really changed. This has been a long time coming for me after 3 elections in 9 years. And I felt that, you know, I had done the work to put in place the option for myself to run again. And I was running until I wasn't.
Do you believe that?
That's a very non-answer. At least the other lies that the other ones told about, well, you know, I want to spend more time with my family. At least it's an answer.
Well, it might not be a lie, but it could be a partial truth.
Well, I'm running until I'm not. Oh, you mean the other ones?
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I want to spend more time with my family because I mean, we do see in the MPs that we know that a lot of the time is spent working on the job, right? They're either in Ottawa away from their family, or they're in their constituencies helping their constituents and attending events. And unfortunately, sometimes family is not always in the picture, like they're not the priority. And again, that was, I think, one of the reasons that Ryan had decided not to run, was because our son and me would have been left alone a good chunk of the time. And also our son needs all the attention that he can get from both of us right now.
Yeah. So it's challenging being a member of parliament, because even when you're home,
You're working.
you are expected to be at events almost every day. And usually it's at least 2, 3, 4 events a day. So
I don't expect that these ministers are lying when they say they want to spend more time with their family. I just have a sneaking suspicion that that's not the whole reason.
yeah, the primary driver, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it seems to come out of the woodwork. And she's like, oh, well, this has been a long time coming. Like, what do you mean a long time coming? Then why did you go to the other elections? Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And you know, when CTV says, well, you know, when we contacted your office in early October, they said you're running. Okay, fine. You know, that's plausible, because, you know, she may have made the decision but hadn't told her team yet and wanted the prime minister to know before she told her to. That's all fair.
Well, and sometimes it's very sudden, as you know, it's very sudden to want to pull out of running.
Yeah, but at least make it a good reason.
And what was that conversation like with the Prime Minister, and when did you have it?
Well, as I said, it's been a series of conversations over many, many years, in terms of talking to the Prime Minister about the realities of being a BC MP, being a mom with young kids, the kind of the lived experience of the travel and the goodbyes and the tears and the anxiety and the public scrutiny for my family. And just in the past probably 6 months, we've had some pretty candid conversations about what my future would look like. And then finally, I'd say, I guess it wasn't till early October that I went and told him, you know, it's time. And of course, he stated a strong preference for me to stay, but he understood, and he'd seen how tough this had become. But, you know, it's been an incredible ride.
Okay, so she said that this has been coming for many, many years, and she said, oh, it wasn't October when I made the decision, but then she just said, but when in early October, I then made the decision. So, okay, that's fine. I think everybody knows what it is. It's, sure, you probably miss your family, but yeah, it's the polls. You know, you're 20 points down. You know, you're losing your riding. So, you know, what else? And you've also been saying, well, you know, I've been talking to the Prime Minister about this for many, many years. Well, that doesn't make sense. Why would Trudeau keep a person in cabinet that for years has been saying, I don't know if I'm going to keep this up very long? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But, you know, there's not a lot that, you know, the Liberal government says that does make sense. And then she's also saying, oh, well, you know, my family gets a lot of public scrutiny. I get public scrutiny. Well, when you completely screw up the country, yeah, you're going to get public scrutiny. Sorry, people are going to get ticked off about that.
Well, and I have a friend who used to work on Parliament Hill. She's not an MP or anything, but she did used to work on the Hill. And one of the things she says is Parliament has a way of changing you, and not always for the better. So, I mean, it's possible that these MPs have just been there for so long, and either they've seen how they've changed, or they are worried about changing, and they're just like, you know what, I'm done.
Well, that's a possibility. That would indicate that there's some sort of character there, and maybe there is, but the timing of everything is just very odd, right? It's October of this year. It's right after the Liberal Caucus revolt starts. It's during this period where Trudeau is in a free fall. It's during this period where Parliament is in a gridlock. It's frozen. The NDP tore up their supply and confidence agreement. The Bloc is now basically saying that we are going to be actively trying to bring down this government. And now all of a sudden it's like, you know, I think for no other reason at all, I think it's just time to go. I don't buy it.
Is it because you didn't feel like you had a proper future within the party that you decided to walk away?
Oh my goodness, no, it is totally because it's been 3 elections, 9 years. I actually think the Prime Minister would have me on his team for as long as I would stay. We have a great relationship. I hope I build a reputation of being hardworking and a good advisor, and candid and sometimes challenging. But no. It absolutely to do with it's just run its course, and my family needs me here in Delta.
Yeah, and they say timing is everything, but you are leaving at a time when the Liberals trail the Conservatives by about 20 points in opinion polls. And there are sources that are telling CTV News there are a number of MPs ready to give the Prime Minister a letter telling him that it's time to go. The Liberals did this summer lose 2 by-elections. Does this decision have anything to do with the possibility or even probability of you losing your seat out in BC?
To be honest, quite the opposite. I think it made it more difficult for me to walk away. I would have put that in the column of reasons to stay, is to fight in the next election, to how important I think the next election is going to be, the risk that I think there is of losing the progress we've made as a government. Absolutely, I think I would have. I mean, this was coming, Mike. This isn't reactionary at all. Whatever the polls were, I actually feel like if the polls had been higher, it would have been easier to walk away, knowing Delta would be in good hands and knowing the country was headed in a good direction. I don't know, maybe that's a bit, I don't know, but I feel like it made the decision more difficult.
What progress?
Maybe she means negative progress. Like,
That was just such a bizarre answer. And
this is why Canadians are so ticked off at these Liberals, because it's like, you are so out of touch with how people are and meanwhile she's like, oh, the country's going great, and I don't want to lose all this great progress. Like,
please, let's lose all this great progress. Let's go back to the way things were when Harper left.
yeah, let's revert. Let's go back to slumming it up with a prosperous middle class, slumming it up with affordable homes, slumming it up with good wages, slumming it up with a manageable immigration system.
And slumming it up with, criminals that stay in jail.
And, those terrible days when there's no tents on the street, people are actually living in homes.
Canadians are prosperous.
Oh, bring back those terrible, terrible days, everybody. And this lady says, well, if Canada was going to be on a great trajectory, that would have made it easier for me. I'm like, okay, so you were part of the government that completely destroyed this country, and now you just want to sneak out the back door.
Sounds like it.
But she's saying, oh, well, the fact that I was going to lose my election, that makes me want to run in the next one. I'm sure.
It really was a garbage answer.
Look at all these people lining up to run as a Liberal in the next election in these seats that are like guaranteed to go blue. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lineup around the block.
So how concerned are you about the next election then?
First of all, I think that Canada would continue to be better off with a Liberal government. I actually believe we can turn it around. I think that, what I hear here in Delta is a whole range of views between, support for the Prime Minister and the government and blaming the Prime Minister and the government for everything. And I think that there's a lot of work to kind of change the channel and get back to the business of running the country and cut through the noise. But I think it can be done. And I think I don't even know how to describe it, once we get back to the core of what we've done and what we want to do for the country, I think we can turn this around.
Okay, well, at least one good thing about the Liberal Party not having this lady run the next election is they're losing one of the delusional ones.
All these cabinet ministers are the delusional ones, and that's why they're in cabinet.
Yeah, because they have done the salute and said, I will parrot the talking points of the Führer. Thank you very much. That's what they're doing.
Well, they don't question, they don't push back. It's just yes sir, no sir. Whatever you want, Justin.
And this is what we talk about, Trudeau surrounding himself with weak people so nobody challenges him. They're acolytes. And it seems like the people that are willing to challenge him are not in his inner circle. And you know what? That's what really bad leaders do. Good leaders put the best people around them, and they may not like being challenged, but they know the value of being challenged. And there's a difference in that. So you want people that is going to say, Justin, that's a bad thing. Oh, no, it's fine. No, Justin, that's a really bad thing to do. And it's to make them think twice and give them all of the information they need to perhaps make the best decision. And it's not necessarily going to be a decision that feels nice, but it's going to be the best one.
So then I guess the question is that if you believe, if you get back to the core of what you've been doing, then why hasn't that resonated with Canadians? Is it a communications issue? Is it the messenger that is the wrong one now for Canadians at this time?
Yeah, I think it's the challenge of having governed for 9 years. I think it's the kind of heightened anxiety just that exists writ large across the country, the uncertainty of these times. I think we have to have important conversations. And getting back to your reference to what's going on within our own caucus, I really believe that we need to have those frank conversations with caucus, and we need to all 100% get on the same page about this. And because if we can't, as a group of 150, how can we expect 40 million people to follow us anywhere?
When you say on the same page, what is the page that you're on right now about where caucus needs to go and where this party needs to go, specifically in regards to the leadership of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Well, a couple of things in that question. First of all, I think that we need to have these conversations in private. I'm really disheartened that this is playing out publicly. I think it undermines the confidence in our party and in the government. I think that caucus is the place to dig in on this. And, I'm disheartened and more than frustrated. Like, I don't know a bigger word to describe when things leak from our caucus, because what happens then is people aren't frank in caucus, and then we don't hear the candor we need as a cabinet and as the Prime Minister to course correct, to pivot, to make the difficult decisions and move forward. But I think people gotta start having these, staying within the confines of caucus. There are other avenues: talk to cabinet, talk to the PM directly, talk to the party. But secondly, around the PM's leadership, I believe very strongly that the Prime Minister has the best interest of the country, and the Liberal Party itself at heart.
Freudian slip.
Right. But, she's saying, talk to cabinet, talk to caucus, talk to the Prime Minister. Would any of you even listen?
Well, the reports is that they've done that.
Right. And the reports are, at least from what we've heard, is that Justin Trudeau does not respect anybody outside the cabinet. He does not respect his caucus. He doesn't care what they think. He's the leader, and you should listen to him.
Yeah. That's what we've heard, and that he's very arrogant about it, and he doesn't want to hear anything. So no doubt they've tried. And they've tried talking to the party, and they've tried talking to the Prime Minister, and they've tried talking to caucus. This is CSIS all over again, okay? So, you Liberal backbenchers, now put yourself in the role of the CSIS whistleblower. Now you know exactly what they think. So it's fantastic that this is actually history repeating itself within a year. You have a government institution that has been funneling all kinds of intelligence over to the government, and they're sitting there saying for years, why is nobody listening? Why is nobody listening? Why is nobody listening? It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then finally, because nobody listens, and they've gone through all of the regular channels and legal channels that they're supposed to, they are so concerned about their country that they're saying, fine, I'm going to break the law because I swore an oath to protect this country, and country comes first. So then you have this happen. Now you have these Liberal backbenchers that no doubt have been going through the regular channels, and nobody's listening. And then they finally said, you know what? This isn't the way we normally do things, but we've tried everything else. Nobody's listening. We're just being swatted down. So now we're going to go this route. It's almost the exact same thing that happened with CSIS, but it's within the Liberal Party. So if you need any other proof of where the problem is, you have it. It is Justin Trudeau and his cabinet and his policies. Period.